Is it possible JFK Jr. is still alive? This is from Carrick's Pendula. Anything's possible. There's a lot to that. I don't think really that if he is alive, it would be really interesting anymore. I would say that if you don't know already, there is documentation to prove the timeline, that it just so happened that Hillary Clinton was wanting to become the senator of New York, probably a couple years before John F. Kennedy Jr. Mysteriously died in his plane crash, because I think also John F. Kennedy Jr. was probably going to run for the New York State Senate, and Hillary Clinton would have never become state senator for New York because of John F. Kennedy Jr. But I think there's more to it than that. If you knew John F. Kennedy Jr.'s actual businesses, like his magazine that he called George, remember that, ladies and gentlemen? Remember that magazine called George? It was a kind of a hoity-toity, or a kind of a higher-up type magazine. It was filled with a lot of different corporate sponsors, obviously, but also different stories. And the word is on John F. Kennedy Jr. that he called it George because he was trying to point the finger at who he knew had actually helped in eliminating his father. So if you can put two and two together, ladies and gentlemen, how many Georges do you really know that are in the higher ups in our government? HR picking stuff. California homelessness is out of control under Democratic rule. I haven't been to California in about a year, maybe a little less than that. And I remember, especially near Huntington Beach, we didn't go all the way to the beach though, but Orange County, I've seen the tent cities over there. Doesn't look too good. Definitely, it's not something that is really understanding to me. I have a friend from high school who actually works in a energy facility in California. I won't name specifically where, but it's crazy. The government of California mandated this facility, meaning that they were the ones that had it built. They were the ones that set up all of the contracts for the contractors that run the place. And from my friend, and what he tends to tell me, is that the facility that they're running is not efficient at all. It's not really solar. It has to do something with oil and heating up oil and doing different things there. So it's just really crazy what the state of California has done. And it's one of the reasons why utilities are so high in California. It's costing the Californians trillions of dollars because it's just so inefficient. You see all those windmills, especially around Palm Springs. You see some of the solar cells in maybe just outside of Palm Springs, maybe outside of Vegas. I don't know if that helps California at all, but you don't see a lot of those solar energy systems unless you're in Arizona. I think Arizona's building those up, but it's crazy. California could help themselves, but they just don't want to help themselves or the homeless, really. Carex Pendula says that JFK Jr. and Trump were close. They may have been in the past, yeah. I think, honestly, John F. Kennedy Jr.'s fiance or wife, I can't remember if she was his fiance or not, or his wife, she was in the accident with him. So I remember them stating in the news. Now, whether this is true or not, back then I believed it, that they found them intact, maybe 100 or 200 feet deep inside the cockpit of the plane that they were flying in the accident. But other than that, I can't really say. He could, John F. Kennedy Jr. and his fiance could still be alive. You just never know. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your questions. I love speaking with you. Maybe next time I'll have it set up to where you'll see my face and I'll do it specific correctly. But now you can see, now I hadn't seen Rand Paul or reason why President Trump was in Kentucky, but I think it's because now he was wanting to thank Rand Paul. I think President Trump is strategic. That's interesting to see Rand Paul come up there and, in his patron state and to say thank you. So President Trump does things behind closed doors that I think everybody should realize, and if you can. And this is why he is a billionaire. And Nancy Pelosi hates him, and Maxine Waters hates him, and Adam Schiff and Feinstein and Jerry Brown and Kamala the crazy lady Harris and all of those other entities come out and blatantly state that they do not like what President Trump does, says, hears, or stands for. And it's one of the reasons because he's richer than they are, I think, and he is not held accountable to anyone. And these politicians, especially the Pelosi's and the Waters and the Schiffs and the Kamala Harrises, they've gotten their funds, the way that they live their lifestyle, they've gotten them from other entities that control their reasonings and their efforts in Congress and in the Senate. So President Trump doesn't have that. They either envy him and hate him because of it, or they just hate him because he's richer than they are. Sergey Bargamotov, I hope I'm saying that right. Sergey, thank you for coming to the chat. Happy for the U.S. finally started to wake up, of course. Honestly, Sergey, I think that's very true. I think I've known a lot of people in other countries that are awake a little bit more than Americans. I think there are a lot of Americans that have been awake for a long time. I've been one of them. I don't have too many friends that are awake. They're still living the American dream, or at least they think it is. Working 40, 50, 60, 70, 8 hours a week and barely being able to see their kids and barely being able to make it on what they earn. But thank you for coming, Sergey. I'm going to turn this campaign up a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. Let's listen to President Trump, a little bit of what he is saying here, okay?
And all of our congressmen know exactly what I'm talking about. He has been so strong on all of the things that we stand for, tax cuts, regulation cuts, every single event that we pass, and it's record numbers of events. He's been at the forefront, and he's got a little bit of a tough race with a Nancy Pelosi picked figure. And I guess they did a little changing, and they did a lot of this and that. The Democrats do. That's the only way they can win. But I'll tell you what, I've seen the crowds. Outside you have 25,000, 35,000, some crazy number of people. And we set up movie screens. We set up beautiful movie screens, and to those people outside, we love you. We love you. You have to see the lines. They go all the way back, many miles. But a lot of them stayed and they're watching screens outside. I like your location better. Do you agree? But this is a special guy.
I love that, ladies and gentlemen. He said they're out there watching screens. I hope they're watching Screen Hoopla, really. But Blue Healer 100 says, I woke up back in 97 after listening to Art Bell, Pastor Pete Peters, and Tex Mars. Well, I knew Art Bell a little bit. I didn't know him personally, but he's the guy that just passed away here in the past year or so, right? I believe he lived out in Nevada, out in a small town. So definitely back then I was just barely graduating college. So, I think there were some things that I didn't know back then, but not much, but definitely it's become something of a myth, I guess, for most people. They just live their lives on a daily basis, and they just are very oblivious to things that are going on. Krabby Crab, thank you for coming to the chat. You say that you're Canadian. I'm very happy for you guys that Trump made America great again. Trump is your hero. Well, thank you, Krabby Crab. I don't think he's made it great yet again. I think there is a division right now, at least a division that some parties and entities in this country are still trying to make wider and larger because they didn't get their way, the way of controlling people. And so, you can only control people so much before they break down emotionally. And, we're not sheep, even though they think that we are. HR Picking Stuff tells us that to red pill your friends, text everyone on my phone and remind them to register to vote a few weeks ago. I will remind them to vote November 6th again. I think this is also why President Trump is doing this. He's trying to help other Republicans, probably especially, but even independents, obviously not Democrats, because a majority of them are going to vote against him on everything, especially who the Democrats try to get into office. As we can see in Colorado, maybe about a year ago, there was this one guy running for a seat there in the state, and one of the main Democratic guys came in and said, we're pretty much trying to put this guy in, and he was blatant about it, and it was his own Democratic Party, but it was a guy that they, had paid off or whatever, and they liked his rhetoric and his ideas about things, and they knew that they were going to be able to control him. So it's unfortunate that you want to put people in there that you can control and make sure that you get what you think you want or what the American people want. But here's another guy, Representative Andy Barr, the 6th District of Kentucky there, another congressman. So you can see President Trump is trying to support a lot of those people in Congress and in the Senate that are supporting him and his values and the direction he wants to take this country. We let Bill Clinton take it in the direction that he wanted. He did a few good things, but mostly were things that didn't help this country really, especially with NAFTA. And then obviously little Bush and what warmongering Bush that he is. Many people were killed in his watch, deliberately, unfortunately, especially around the world, that we have no idea of. You don't see them going into Iraq or into, we can really see what's going on. What's going on with Ukraine? They don't have that in the news whatsoever that I've seen, ladies and gentlemen. I don't watch mainstream media very much, but I see it on YouTube, and I see some issues. President Putin is really not speaking too much. There's not a lot of dialogue with the president of Ukraine. So God knows what's going to happen over there. And we know what happened in World War I and World War II. And all of a sudden, America had to get involved some way, somehow, because we were affected in some way. And that comes back to FDR. I mean, would you, as a president, line up a bunch of ships in a harbor so that some entity like Japan could come along and just blow us up? Probably not. So it's hindsight is 2020, ladies and gentlemen.